We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. Well, I'm glad to see so many of you out there. I see a ton of folks out there. Baltimore is out there. Mission Viejo, Tempe, Arizona. Forney, I'm not sure where Forney is. Huntington, looks like it's all down south. Baton Rouge. Man, I see a ton of stuff out there. Glad to see you guys out there this morning. Thank you very much for joining with us. Hope you are catching our show either live on americasvoicenow.org, or you can catch us on Patriot FB, and or you can catch us on Constitution Club. So we're going to cover a couple of different topics this morning, but I've got a guest who's going to come on in our third segment that's going to blow your doors off. She gave me a call last night. She's someone I've had on the show before. She works against Agenda 21 up in the St. Louis area. Teresa Douglas is a true patriot, and she is fighting against the abuse of what we see going on every day in the arena of the Agenda 21 insidious implementations that are going on in cities and towns around the nation. What you don't realize about that is that Agenda 21 is being slipped in underneath the door, so to speak, in a lot of different ways. She's going to talk with us this morning about this brand new legislation they're trying to pass in the city council in St. Louis. Wait till you hear this, folks. Check this out. If you live with someone in your home and that person is not directly related to you, then you have to apply for a landlord permit. I kid you not. But wait, it gets better. If, for argument's sake, you decide that you're not going to do that and they catch you, they can hit you with a $1,000 per day fine and up to a year in prison. I'm telling you, wait until the LGBT community hears about this, because under Missouri law, they can't get married in the first place, right? So that means they want to cohabitate. But as soon as you are cohabitating with someone you're not directly related to, put the brakes on. This is insane. What is it the government's business whether or not you live by yourself or live with someone else? Why does government care? I'll tell you why they care. It's all about control. And folks, I cannot stress it strongly enough. That's what this stuff is all about. None of it is about anything else other than abject control. You will have to purchase a landlord license to rent out or even allow your friends to stay in your home. Privately owned home, not a rental. I mean, it's insane. You know what? Our founders said to us, and they said very clearly, if you abrogate property rights, the republic is no more. And I've got to tell you, when you've got a city who says it's okay for us to force you under law to notify us that you have people living with you and who they are so that we can really track them, John Adams' statement comes to mind. The moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the laws of God and that there is not a force of law and public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. Hello. Okay. Our first segment this morning. The state of police abuse of authority has reached epidemic proportions. And I got to tell you, folks, if you don't see it, here's the problem. Law enforcement in our nation has reached a point in which they no longer have credibility. There are two stories I posted on our website and Facebook this morning. The first one is this cop fired 4 shots at a car full of teenagers because she wouldn't stop the way he told her to. He killed her. I got to tell you, this is a case of shoot first, get the facts later, and then claim, officer safety as the excuse for it. Well, let me tell you something. I am tired of police putting themselves into harm's way by using pseudo law as the reason for their getting in danger's way in the first place. And the reason for their egregious behavior. Then beating up, wounding, and killing people who do what any intelligent person would do under the same condition. You see, the claim of officer safety is a cunard, and it's a lie, and it's a chimera. If police officers put themselves in those few actual situations that are dangerous to them, but they do it based on stupid and abusive rules that have no social or public value other than revenue raising for the community or the city or the town or the county or the state they operate and run, then that's just too bad for them. If you choose to put yourself in harm's way as a warrior for money, we got nothing further to talk about. The trust and the community evaluation of police work these days has reached an all-time low. You see, the truth is, danger to law enforcement has never been lower than it is right now. But to hear them say it, they're in constant danger. Well, first of all, that's a lie. And secondly, if you place yourself in constant danger so that you can generate ticket revenue, which is what this is all about, then I got no sympathy for you. You put yourself there, you asked for it, you got it, Toyota. End of argument. The second one is a story about on the Daily Caller where these cops actually admit on videotape that they got the wrong guy, but they arrest him anyway. It's unbelievable. There is zero credibility to law enforcement at this point. Zero. Since they won't clean up their own house and they won't oust their own bad apples, they have zero credibility and therefore zero sympathy. I'm going to give you the example. And I've used this before, but I want you to begin to roll this around in your mind and understand it so that you are able to use it in a realistic fashion. If Muslims would stop and would police their own populations and their own mosques, and they would stop the extremist behavior within their own ranks, the world wouldn't have such a negative view of Islam. They wouldn't turn around and say, Islam is not a religion of peace. They wouldn't say Islam is all extremists. They wouldn't be profiled. But they won't do it. They won't do it. And since police are in the same boat and they won't police themselves and they won't reduce the bad apples within their own ranks, then we're left to assume that they all agree with the evil that is being done by the few bad apples that are out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to suggest. You see, cops won't patrol and clean up their own act. Their own superiors won't clean up their act. And so we're left to just believe that all cops are bad. What else can we be left with? When we complain, their superiors whitewash it. These officers are getting away with the most egregious abuses based on a claim that the officer did nothing wrong. He followed procedure. Procedure is not an excuse for people to die. Our second segment, Benghazi. It's now officially a scandal, but no thanks to the Ministry of Propaganda and the mainstream media. No thanks to them. They have sat here and denied and denied and denied it. They have stood here and stated to us over and over and over, there is no scandal here. Benghazi was just an accident that happened. We've known differently all along. And now that proof is out, and by the way, there's tons of it, and including the inability now for Hillary to escape plausible deniability, because we now have emails from Cheryl Atkinson that directly indict the entire State Department organization, including Hillary Clinton. So she no longer has plausible deniability. This Hillary Clinton, a deputy, in an email, names Islamic extremists, not a YouTube video, the morning after the attack. The morning after. And guess what? This is her own Assistant Secretary of State, and she named Ansar al-Sharia as the attacker, and here's who she copied. Deputy Secretary William Burns, Undersecretary for Political Affairs Wendy Sherman, Jake Sullivan, then Deputy Chief of Staff, now promoted to National Security Advisor to Vice President Joe Biden, the Undersecretary of State Patrick Henry, Cheryl Mills, then Secretary Clinton's Chief of Staff, now on the board of the directors of the global investment firm BlackRock, and Victoria Nuland, then the State Department spokesperson, now promoted to Assistant Secretary of State. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary Clinton no longer has an escape chute. It's over. All right, our third segment will be Teresa Douglas, who will join us to talk about this St. Louis landlord bill that will make you absolutely crazy. And then our fourth segment is, why are so many Americans desperate to flee blue state tyranny? Yesterday, I posted a poll from Gallup, the Gallup organization. And in it, they were stating that there are a group of states where that most residents would leave if only they could. You won't believe it, folks. 50% of people who live in Illinois would leave if they could. 50%. 49% in Connecticut. 49%. You know why? Because Connecticut just passed one of the most draconian gun laws in the nation. I mean, these states, Maryland, 47%, Nevada, 43%, Rhode Island, 42%, New Jersey, 41%. I escaped New Jersey 13 years ago, thank you. New York, 41%, Massachusetts, 41%, Louisiana, 40%, Mississippi, 39%. Interesting, isn't it? We're going to get into it, and we're going to get into it in greater detail. But I got to tell you, every one of these is either a blue state or it is a state that has excessive gun and or government control. Bingo. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the common thread for every one of those states. All right, let's jump into our first segment this morning. The state of police abuse in the United States and the abuse of their authority and their abuse of their power as law enforcement is reached epidemic proportions. There's a video out there this morning in Daily Caller, and it's posted on our Facebook and website and all over the place. A Delaware man prevails in his lawsuit against the Seaford police, who confused him for a suspect. They tasered the guy. They admitted that they then had the wrong guy. They discussed planting drugs in his car, and then ultimately arrested him anyway. What? Are you insane? Every one of these officers should be in jail awaiting a trial. And awaiting a trial on, among other charges, the one that matters when you are in a position of authority. Abuse of authority. Abuse of power. Abuse of position. I'm going to tell you why. When you are in a position where you have police power, and when I say police power, I don't mean police power like as in, all government is force, right? And so police power is the power to take action against an individual based on rules, regulations, and law. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the IRS, and it doesn't matter whether you're a local police officer, and it doesn't matter whether you're a dog catcher, and it doesn't matter whether you're the governor of a state. If you are abusing that power for whatever reason, whether it's personal benefit, whether it is because your feathers got ruffled or as a cover-up, or whether it is for ideological reasons like we see in the IRS, or whatever. It makes no difference why you abused it. It only matters that you have that power and authority and you've abused it. That's all that matters. And you abused it and you took it out of its context and you said, I'm going to use this power not as it was meant to be used, not as I've been granted this authority to act on behalf of the citizenry for the benefit of them, but I'm going to use it against them. And I know better, and I'm going to do it anyway. That rises to a higher level of crime. Why? Because you can sit there and rail all you want about a guy doing 80 miles an hour in a 50 mile an hour zone, but there's nothing you can do about it. You can sit there and argue and disagree all you want about virtually anything that's going on in our nation today, but you have no power and authority to do anything about it. When you do have that power and authority, then you are obligated to live at a higher threshold. Period. And if you don't like those terms, then get out of the job. This guy's nightmare began on the night of his birthday. This is in 2011. He was pulled over by several police cars, and he was instructed to get out of the car. He got out of the car too slowly for these cops, and so they tasered him and they dragged him out within 15 seconds of their order. And then they tossed him onto the road and they handcuffed him. They then confused him for someone else. And then after they realized they had the wrong guy, because they inspected his driver's license, and this was all captured on a dash cam, folks. One cop can be heard saying to the other, "Dude, we got the wrong guy." Johnson was hauled into the back of a police car, protesting all the while that he'd done nothing wrong. One guy suggested, and they say jokingly, I don't believe it, planting drugs in Johnson's car. "Someone dropped the dope in there," said an officer. Are you kidding me? Nobody followed through on it, but they did arrest Johnson for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Resisting arrest for what? He didn't do anything wrong. He was the wrong man. They knew he was the wrong man, and they didn't care. You have a right. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, you have a duty and an obligation to resist tyranny and abuse. Prosecutors dropped the charges against him. Hello, no kidding. Any surprises there? Johnson's filed a federal lawsuit. On Wednesday, he prevailed. He reached a settlement figure of $270,000 with the Seaford Police Department. You see, here's the problem, though. No word about what happens to the cops in this article. Were they charged? Were they removed? See, generally what happens is they get suspended with pay. So they go on vacation on the taxpayer dime. And the worse the crime, the longer the vacation. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is only one of literally tens of thousands of cases like this around the country. Family and friends of 19-year-old Samantha Ramsey are overcome with grief, and they want answers. A cop fired 4 shots into a moving car, and it was full of children, full of kids, not children, teenagers. The girl, Ramsey, she was the driver, and she was struck by one of the bullets, and she died on the scene. Dash cam footage shows that the encounter happened in Boone County Sheriff Deputy Tyler Brockman fired 4 shots into a car full of teenagers. They didn't even get a chance they didn't stop. So he didn't know what they had, whether they were guilty of something. He just didn't like the fact that they didn't follow his orders. So he fired 4 bullets into the car full of kids. I'm telling you, if one of those kids was my kid, this guy better move to Bolivia. Brockman was standing on the highway in front of his vehicle as Ramsey slowly pulled her vehicle in front of him, shined his flashlight in her face, and appeared to signal her to stop the car. She continues moving the vehicle out of the view of the dash cam. Seconds later, Brockman fires 4 shots. The car careens into a ditch. 2 passengers exit the vehicle. Ramsey's dead. Taken away by ambulance, dead on the scene. Brockman claims Ramsey tried to run him over, and he fired the shots in self-defense because he was out of range of the dash cam. That's a lie. Even so, the article says, even so, it's difficult to imagine a scenario that justifies the shooting, which could have harmed multiple other people. There were 4 people in the car. Friend of the victim, Lindsay Hall, says, just to be shot at 4 times is excessive. This wasn't right. He could have killed the other 3 people that were in the car. Ramsey, the girl who was driving, was leaving a party when the incident happened. She'd been arrested once previously for driving under the influence. So that's justification, I suppose, for murder. She says, her mother says, I just want to know what happened. I want answers. The officer involved, I'm not an unreasonable person. I'm realistic. He was the last person that looked at my daughter's eyes, that saw her face, and I want answers. Well, I'm sorry, Ms. Brockman, you're not going to get answers from him. I'm sorry, Ms. Ramsey, you're not going to get answers from this monster. He's been placed on leave pending the results of an investigation. This is the same crap we hear every time. Due to the high level of media and public scrutiny being paid to the case, Sheriff Michael Helmig said asked the state police to handle the investigation, and state authorities have declined, however, to look into it. You got to be kidding me. You got a teenager dead for potentially what? Driving under the influence? Leaving a party? Why? Because she wouldn't follow some officer whose orders she was afraid maybe to follow. We don't even know. And nobody knows. You know why? Because he didn't care. All he did was pull out the gun and blow her away. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, this has reached a point of epidemic proportion. We now have an epidemic, and you are far more likely to die at the hands of your own government than you are from any extremist terrorist, Islam, Muslim, anybody else. You're more likely to die if you are black from a police officer than you are from anybody else. You are more likely to die if you are white from a police officer than from anybody else. Don't you get it? Since 9/11, we have had more civilians killed by law enforcement than we lost in all the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And that's a fact. We've had more American citizens killed by police than we lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, the jig is up. The time has come for everyone to demand from their local police departments, their local sheriff's office, accountability. If we cannot get these cops under control, and it continues on where they are just murdering people left and right. Wrong house, knock on the wrong door, guy answers the door and says, you got the wrong house. They don't care. They just start tasing people. Then the guy's wife or husband comes out and comes out with a shotgun thinking they're being raided by street gangs, and the next thing you know, they murder them. And then they say, hey, we were in danger of our life. You didn't have any business in the house. You placed yourself in a position of danger, and you got what you had coming. And then you kill an innocent. It's inexcusable. And we, the people, have had enough. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how Benghazi is now officially a scandal. No thanks to the Ministry of Propaganda, who's been pretending and ignoring the whole thing all the time. And I got to tell you something. It's only the tip of the iceberg, because if they ever expose the gun-running aspects of this and the fact that we were arming Al-Qaeda with knowledge and malice aforethought, who used these weapons later to kill Americans, every member of the administration, the State Department, and the Pentagon who knew about it is guilty of treason and murder.